I don't want to just pick on the Catholics and all this, but I better say something about the Catholics. The Catholics is an interesting phenomenon. Being a black Catholic is an interesting phenomenon. First thing, if you stop to think about it, I guess you don't think in religion, you believe. It's difficult to talk to people who believe. But the fact that black people would get on their knees to kiss a white man's ring. Now that's just, even the most conservative black should think about that for a minute. I mean, to kneel on your knees and say this is an act of God, to kiss a white man's ring, and if he turns around, other parts of his anatomy, according to where the ring is. But let me tell you about the Catholics. Many of you are not old enough, but you can go back tonight and ask your parents and your grandparents. Ask them about Ethiopia. They will tell you about Catholics, your grandparents and your parents. They are not political at all, but they remember Selassie. Selassie was a sacred person to your parents and your grandparents. According to how old they are, some of you are young. Your grandparents, you ask them about it, they don't talk about it. But Haile Selassie was a sacred figure to black folks. And in 1936, the Italians took and invaded Ethiopia with planes. The Ethiopians did not have guns, and we have pictures of the Pope Pius blessing those planes who was going to drop bombs on Ethiopian men, women, and children. And they also, Life magazine published pictures of black men and boys in Africa and Ethiopia throwing spears at airplanes, and they laughed about it. Throwing spears at airplanes. And they said we have no courage. That's Mentacide. And yet you're a Catholic. You're a Catholic. No, you don't know your history. And if you don't know your history, you die. And that's why they laugh at us. That's why they have so much contempt for us. Because no matter what they do to us, we still say accept us. We never try to look out for ourselves. We never say let's take our destiny in our own hands. Let's look out for ourselves. We're men and women. We're grown men and women. We're not boys and girls. We're not in this world playing games. Why is it so difficult for us to do that? Mentacide prohibits us from even thinking the idea. Just the idea. Do not even let us think, why are all of you so much different religions? I can start on this road and go down it. And every one of you will be a different religion. Why? Why? Not everyone, I'm talking about, but why? Why is it? Why is this religion? What is it about this religion? That's where we must begin to question. It's very threatening to many of us. Last time I got up here in Seattle and said this, it was really a problem. But so we don't even want to discuss it. We don't even want to think about it. Don't give me no bad news. That's what the Evelina said. Don't bring me no bad news. I don't hear no bad news. You see, so let's go on. That too is Mentacide. Even if you look, one of the things we did, we took the TV shows for some black parents in Chicago. And we took these TV shows and we looked at the black shows and how many negativisms were in those black shows. And you'd be surprised in things like the Jefferson and all the Good Times and all that stuff, how many negativisms were in it compared to anything positive at all. And in fact, the most healthiest relationship in a Jefferson is the interracial couple. She comes down and beat up on poor George. The maid beat up on George. Yeah, do you really believe a brother would take that from a maid? You gotta be crazy, but we laugh at it. We laugh at it. If you believe that, you believe you need my professional services after this meeting. That a brother would take that from a maid. Open her mouth and push him down. And he paying her. Now, brothers don't even take that from people they don't pay. Now, my point is very, very clear. My point is very clear. White people are psychopathic. They're psychopathic in nature, and their behavior reflects an underlying biologically transmitted proclivity, which is rooted deeply in their evolutionary history. All that means, all those words mean is that the white's behavior and attitude is genetically determined. Okay. They got a camera breaking. Okay. Let me tell you what that means, because this becomes very important. What it means is this. If indeed, as many brothers and sisters believe, that racism is learned behavior, then it can be modified and changed by experience and by training or education. However, if you take the position that all of these years that they've been in contact with the black race, that it is genetically determined, then you have two options. Either you must neutralize it, just like any other disease. You must neutralize it, or you must destroy it. There's no other option. Nothing in the history of this, nothing in the history prepares us to believe or indicates to us that racism is not genetically determined. Everywhere we see whites, they have a hatred for black people. A hatred. An undying hatred. Now we have all sort of proposals on what it is. Some take the position, see, even to show you Mentacide and what it can do, and show you even what it can do to us, and then I'm finished with this part of it. And we'll start taking questions, so y'all may want to ask questions. If you look to Africa, you go to Africa, and you see all of these big, huge statues, and they're in perfect condition except one thing. Guess what it is? Their noses and mouths are knocked off. Even the great Sphinx. Who did it? Give me your history. Napoleon. Napoleon said, that nigger's laughing at me. Knock his nose or mouth off. The great Sphinx. Read your history. And guess what they have convinced us? They have convinced us that we're the most primitive race ever lived. And ask yourself one question. If we are so primitive, and we never had a culture, why are they digging in Africa rather than Europe? Okay. So the question is, why are they digging in? Why are they digging in Europe? If you really look at all the artifacts and everything else, you see, if you want to study African history, guess where you got to go? To Europe. You got to go to France and England to those museums. They show you finally about Mentacide and how it works. They have convinced themselves that King Tut is not black. King Tut is not black.